Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hello, Dave. Nothing much beats beating the Maple Leafs in Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada on a Saturday night.
Very sweet. 6-3, Kurt. The grade A shots in the end were fairly close, mainly because of score effects. The Leafs got 5 grade A shots in garbage time. So that made it close, but it was 17-16 for the Oilers overall, with the subset of 5 alarm shots, 9-8 for the Oilers. But again, 5 of those shots happened in garbage time for the Leafs. So pretty dominating performance by the Edmonton Oilers, and lots of good stuff happened in that game for the Oilers.
Yeah, even though the Leafs had a 2-1 lead at one point, frankly, the Oilers were the better team. And you kind of had the feeling that eventually they were going to claw back into this one, which they did. But there was lots of interesting events to talk about that kind of led to that point. It was a pretty fascinating game to watch tonight with some new blood in the lineup, all sorts of things to talk about.
Kurt, 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. What is your good thing?
My good thing is the old saying, our best players were better than their best players. And usually in the National Hockey League, when that happens, most times you win. And tonight, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl put on a clinic. Man, were they good. Connor McDavid was the best player on the ice for the first 30 minutes, and Leon Draisaitl pretty much for the second 30 minutes. They dominated from start to finish. Each of them had 3 points, 2 goals and assist for McDavid, 3 helpers for Draisaitl. But when we're talking about our best players were better than their best players, check the lines. Connor McDavid, 2-1-3 and +3. Leon Draisaitl, 0-3-3 +3. On the other side, not as good. William Nylander, no points, no shots, -3. Austin Matthews, no points, 1 shot, 0. When there's that big of a gap between the 2 teams' best players, the outcome is pretty much a fait accompli.
They're kind of down in the mouth in Toronto about Austin Matthews, eh? They're not very happy with the way he's played this year.
Well, they weren't happy with the guy who used to pass him the puck all the time, so they ran him out of town. And now they wonder why their great goal scorer can't score as much. Well, maybe he's missing that guy who's not there anymore.
What did you think of Podzilla tonight, Kurt? I'm gonna when you mentioned this before, that you were going to talk about this, I said you should talk about him because he's now one of the Oilers' best players.
Yeah, my comment to you before we pushed record on the podcast tonight was, if it wasn't for McDavid and Draisaitl, Vasily Podkolzin would have been the first star tonight. I mean, he was dominant. He was dominant physically, he was dominant defensively, and he was dominant on offense. And the 2 goals that he scored, I just love the way he scored them, because what did he do in both cases? He went to the net. And not meekly either. That's the other thing I like about Podkolzin, is he doesn't have a meek bone in his body. He just plowed straight to the net. And the first goal, you can argue, was a shade lucky. Okay, it went off his shin pad and in. But when you go to the net, good things happen. But that second goal, first of all, the backhand pass by Draisaitl is better than a forehand pass that most other NHLs can make. What a pass. And it was a bullet. But you know what? Podkolzin was just making a beeline for the net, and all he did was put a stick down and boom, in it went. I agree with you. When we first got Podkolzin from Vancouver, we thought, well, maybe he'll turn into a useful 4th-line player. Yes. Leon Draisaitl takes a shine to him. All of a sudden, it's hard to imagine, even if the Oilers are 100% healthy, it's hard to imagine taking Vasily Podkolzin off of Leon Draisaitl's wing. The Vancouver Canucks have to be looking at this going, how did we let that one slip away?
I just want to remark, you've obviously McDavid had a great game. His acceleration on that first goal.
Oh, that's
Has a player skated faster in the NHL this year? I don't know.
Oh,
With the puck, I don't know when they measure the fastest skater. Is it with the do they only measure it when the guy has the puck, or is it just overall when he's skating, like on the back check? If someone skates really fast, does that count? I don't know, but like with the puck, the way he moved up the ice there, I mean, he was going full stride. He had done like a he does those crossovers so fast
mhm.
below the blue line, just winding up. Before he got the puck, he'd done multiple crossovers. Let's put it that way. Infinity cross of his little fast crossovers, and he was going full speed when he got it, and he just made the other team look sick.
Well,
He
he
was going
split the
so
two
fast.
defenders. He just blew past the third, and then the backhand, forehand deep, going at breakneck speed. I'll point out. Just a
What a goal.
fabulous goal. And, just to give credit where credit's due, just before that, Bouchard made a very good defensive play at the defensive blue line and made a really quick pass to McDavid, who was already flying. And it was, yeah, just like he was shot out of a cannon right up the middle. It was no contest.
Yeah. The next goal too, he was flying pretty good, and when
Yeah.
Stetcher put it in the net, and
Poor Troy Stetcher. It's easy to cheer
well,
for the guy, but geez, I've done that. I know how that feels.
Nuge was right there, right? Nuge, he could feel Nuge breathing down his neck, so he
Yep.
just was getting rid of that puck.
I
And
think if
then,
Stetcher doesn't touch that puck, I think Nuge puts it in, honestly.
yeah, probably, or Hyman was creeping in there too.
He
And
was.
then the next one was just such a beautiful play as well. Like the passing play between McDavid again charging up the ice, another goal rush, puts it over to Draisaitl, and Nurse just wings it in the net
Yeah.
with Hyman screening. That was a beautiful play. So,
Yeah, our best players, they were feeling it tonight. You'll notice that I write about this in my 9 Things column, which will be up tomorrow morning. I think one of the offshoots of the Tristan Jarry trade, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the podcast, is I expect this team to play a little guilty because I think they're keenly aware that they didn't exactly light the world on fire in front of Stu Skinner this season. And I suspect more than a few of them feel a bit shitty that he got traded, um, because not all of that was on Stu. And I think everybody knows it, including that Oilers dressing room.
yes, in the past, they've gotten coaches fired with their lax defensive play. Um, Tippett, Woodcroft. Um, but this time and the coaches were also to blame, right? The coaches were not doing everything right. And
Yep.
Skinner's also to blame here. But I agree with you, Kurt. Like there was a lot of bad defensive play by this team earlier on by individual, like some of the biggest players on the team are the biggest culprits. And yeah, they didn't help Stu Skinner. Stu Skinner didn't necessarily help himself,
Agreed.
but and um, my good thing is Tristan Jarry, and it's mainly because of two saves in particular with the game really close. Two saves that I feel like as I was watching them, I was wondering would Stu Skinner have made that save?
Mhm.
And Skinner wasn't particularly good on breakaways, and the score was tied 1-1. The Leafs had just scored late in the first period. Um, and Jari John Tavares broke in. I think it was on the breakaway.
Who's been the
Regula
Leafs' best player this year?
Regula had given up the puck at the blue line, and it was a clean break in, and Jari just quite easily stoned him. Like just it wasn't that hard of a stop, and I just thought, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. That's that, and it's just one play. But then again, in the second period, it was 2-2. The Oilers had just tied it. McDavid had just Stetcher had just put the puck in the net. And a minute later, there was a shot from the blue line that was deflected in front of the net. And uh, Spencer Stastny had gone out to try to block the initial tip. And so that right down low, in, down low in the crease, there was a grade A triple five alarm shot for I think Lawrence. Is this Steve Lawrence? Is that his
Yep.
name?
Lawrence. Yep.
Yeah,
There's a pad save there. Yep.
bad save. And again, he just looks smooth stopping that puck. And throughout the game, I loved the way he moved to the net. Now, Calvin Pickard actually moves pretty good in the net often too, fairly fluid. But Jarry was very coordinated, very fast, he just looked quick in the net.
Yeah.
And those two saves, she just made them look easy, honestly. And I thought that's fantastic. Elliot Friedman came on between periods and said, both these goalies were looking for a change, or the Oilers as a team were looking for a change, and he thought Stu Skinner came around to that in the end, and he outright said Jarry was happy to come to Edmonton. Looks like it. He really, he looked great. First impression, and all we can say is first impressions. Great first impression.
For sure. And you know what? There's the old saying, your goaltender needs to be your best penalty killer. You know what? It was 2 big saves helped his mates kill off that Toronto power play in the second period. 2 key saves in that power play. And it was still 2-2 when Nyes fired one at him, and he kicked that one out as well, too. Next series, we scored the 3-2. And so in my paragraph for Tristan Jarry tonight, my last sentence is, made key stops at the most critical times. And isn't that what you want your goaltender to do?
And it's not like Skinner never, he often did that. Yep. But we've seen enough of him where I think it's fair to say, Kurt, that we all were relieved on some level to be getting another goalie in here and give someone else a shake. You just couldn't continue with this. Yeah. Unless Stu had gone on some amazing run of play, it just wasn't going to work. And
I think the first 25 games of the season wrote his future. Yeah.
And it's in another town, so good luck to him.
Yep.
All right. Bad things, Kurt. What's your bad thing?
A couple defensive plays tonight. I have to say, I always struggle a little bit with this when the Oilers play so well, and they were a dominant team in Toronto tonight. So I feel like I'm picking on them a little bit, but still, there's a few areas that they still need to clean up. I want to pick out one play, Evan Bouchard, the attempted pinch at the attacking blue line. I don't mind that so much. Most times Evan Bouchard's going to make that play at the attacking blue line, and you benefit from it. So I don't mind him being aggressive at the attacking blue line. But then he was back and in front of his own net with lots of time and simply ignored the guy in front. And it was the guy in front that swept the puck in for the 1-1. It's just, when people talk about Evan and they wring their hands about intensity, look at the replay of that goal, and that's what we're talking about, right? The other guy who I'm going to talk about tonight is Alec Regula, who, quite frankly, he and Darnell Nurse were actually pretty good tonight, but there were 2 5-alarm giveaways by Regula that were a real problem. The first one you already mentioned, that's the one that resulted in the Tavares breakaway. There was a second period turnover as well, but Vasily Podkolzin absolutely got on his horse, got back and took out the puck carrier before there was even a shot on net. So, it's funny, in one case, the defenseman was back and didn't bail the team out. In the second case, it was the forward who busted his ass and bailed the team out. Turnovers are going to happen. It's one of those things. But there are mistakes that you really do want to clean up, because in essence you're beating yourself when that happens.
Indeed. All right, Kurt, my bad thing is the goal in garbage time right at the end off the face-off. And it wasn't like there was egregious mistakes. There was just a lost battle on the face-off. And then Matthias Janmark, would have been nice if he had cut out that pass that went into the center of the ice. Or someone had covered that shooter. The shooter, I think it was Lawrence again. And Emerson might have been the closest guy. It would have been, but it did kind of, it was a tough play for the goalie because it's moving across the ice and bang, it's in the net. Bang, there's a shot. So it was a pretty dangerous shot. And it kind of, 2 goals against for a goalie is what they're looking for. 3 is one too many. And it took a little bit of the shine off Jarry's night. And would have been nice for the team just to bear down and kill off that game without giving up that kind of a scoring chance. And again, they gave up like a number of good scoring chances late in the game because they didn't bear down in that moment. So it didn't make things easy for Jarry at the end, and it affected his save percentage, which is a big stat for goalies. And goalie coaches and people who comment on the internet. So uh, I didn't like that.
No, well, nor should have you. I got to say, look, I'm an Oilers fan. I cheer for this team, and I think there's a lot of great things about it. This is one thing, though, that bugs me about this club. I was thinking about a game a few nights ago, and it's one that Calvin Pickard played, and the guy had played his heart out all night, and the Oilers they were going to win the game, and I think Pickard had given up 3. And sure enough,
Oh yeah.
these bunch of jokers let up and a fourth one went in. And you could see the body language of Calvin Pickard. It was like, crap, right? And I kind of felt they did the same thing tonight. Here you've got this brand new goaltender. You were partly responsible for getting your buddy and your teammate chased out of town. And so what do? You let up at the end of the third period and you allow a cheap goal in garbage time. For the love of God, you guys, bear down. Like, finish a game, right? I didn't hear the exact quote, but I think Connor McDavid was pretty pissed off that third goal went in tonight, and he should be. And I hope there was a conversation about it, because there's an old saying, David, it's time this circus left town. It's time this club stopped giving up soft goals in garbage time, because it doesn't show their goaltender that they're on his side.
I agree, Kurt. Numbers. What is your number?
999. With 3 assists tonight, Leon Draisaitl now has 999 career points.
Wow.
Only a handful of Edmonton Oilers have hit 1,000 in their career, and it's inevitable that he's going to be the next one. When you started off the night at 996, there's only a few players in the league where you go, he might hit it tonight. And he just about did. And in fact, there was a chance in the third period. It was McDavid and Draisaitl on a 2-on-1, and I actually stood up off my couch and said, this is it. And Leon put a perfect pass over to Connor McDavid, and Connor flubbed it. And you could tell he was upset with himself, because he knew exactly which point that would have been for his buddy Leon. And hey, they're humans. That happens. It's not like he tried to miss it, but it would have been pretty cool if that's how he would have got number 1,000.
Yeah, it's on Hockey Night in Canada. Well, you can do it in Montreal tomorrow night, right? That's a pretty good place to get your 1,000.
The Bell Center would be an okay place to get 1,000 career points. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of John Tavares, at even strength, Kurt, he is the 15th highest scorer in the NHL this year, 3.3 points per game.
Well, he's been the Leafs' best player this year, and it hasn't been particularly close.
I guess he won't be on Team Canada either, eh?
No, there was a day, remember, he did play for the national team one year. It was, and was a role player, but a really effective role player, because he was a really good NHL player and a real smart, two-way guy. I think everybody thought he was almost done, but they're lucky they've got him this year.
Canada's got a lot of really good forwards, eh?
Yeah. Forwards isn't Canada's problem.
All right. So my number is 8. Vasily Podkolzin has 8 goals already, which is the number that he had all of last season.
Wow, hey.
So he's on track for, if he keeps this up, and he's speeding up. Actually, he's trending fast. He's up for 20 goals this year. That is amazing. But you play with Leon Draisaitl, and you're smart. You go to the right places in front of, go to the net like he did tonight, or you work on your shot, which he's also been doing, and you might start to score some. And he's just the kind of player, part of me, when I think of Leon Draisaitl, I think of Phil Esposito, and they're not that similar in some ways, but they're both big, burly guys who command the play.
Yeah.
And are offensive geniuses. Mm-hmm. Now, Phil was the guy who took the pass in the slot and put it in from the slot. But he often played with these burly, tough wingers. Wayne Cashman, Ken Hodge,
who could get him the puck.
Face McKenzie would go in the corner and get him the puck, and he'd slam it in. Well, there's the same kind of chemistry. Tough guy with the brilliant scorer, brilliant offensive player with Podkolzin and Draisaitl, and he has made the top 6. This last is just cement. It's been perking all along here, and he's done a good job. It's just hard to imagine he's not going to be the guy with Draisaitl for the rest of the year. And I don't know who the other will be. So it could well be Roslovic, but like if they put Nugent Hopkins on, if they might just keep the top line, Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Hyman, and then go with the second line of Roslovic, Podkolzin, and Draisaitl. Those are two dynamite lines, Kurt.
Yes,
Like
they
that
are.
is now they're going to have to flesh out the other lines, but there's ways to do that with a trade, perhaps, or Quinn Hudson, who's got 10 goals in his last 10 games. I understand in the minors, which is that's pretty good. Like that's they're letting him get overripe now because he's ripe. And so there might be other solutions for the third line than putting Nuge there. But if those are your two top lines and they're all healthy, that is very promising. And if you get goaltending, Kurt, if you get some goaltending and the defenseman, and let's say Darnell Nurse brings his A game in the playoffs,
like he did tonight.
Hope.
Yeah.
I got some hope here, Kurt.
I have one follow-up for you on Podkolzin, and it's this. Is there a player on the roster who cheats less than Vasily Podkolzin?
Yeah, so even when he makes mistakes on defense, it's because he's trying too hard. He's never cheating. He's always throwing his body here, there, and everywhere. But so far, he seems like one of these guys, these kind of people who are built like slabs. He's not loose-limbed. He's slab-limbed. And he seems to have a fairly durable body, like for hockey. So we'll see how that goes. But
I saw an interview with Bruce Boudreau, who, of course, had something to do with Vasily Podkolzin, and he said of all the players on that Canucks team, Podkolzin was like the physical specimen on that team. Like he was, his quote was, he was built like a brick. You know what?
Why did they give up on that player?
Crazy.
Thank goodness they give. The loss of Dylan Holloway. It's not been brought up much this year because Holloway's not having a great year in St. Louis. But Podkolzin and what he brings, and he was brought in as a replacement.
Precisely for that reason. Yeah.
And wow, like in terms of replacing a power forward with a power forward, we got a very interesting player to replace. Also a very interesting player in Dylan Holloway. It'd be nice to have both.
Yeah.
Frankly, but
I mean, Podkolzin is not quite as skilled as Holloway, of course, but he brings other aspects that Holloway didn't, right? So
Holloway's more like the dynamic rush player who shoots off the rush and can
I always kind of thought he was the second coming of Taylor Hall.
Excellent comparison. Taylor Hall when he was real good, because Holloway last year he was a force. Like he was coming on, and this year he's a little slower. Maybe he'll come on. I think he's coming on a little bit lately.
St. Louis they've got troubles there.
Podkolzin has 1.94 points per game, points per 60, I should say, at even strength. And that places him tied for 155th in the league for forwards. That places you firmly as a second line scorer. He's putting up points because he does so many other things well, right, in the game to earn his place on the second line. But he's now putting up points like a second liner, and he is the sixth leading scorer after those big five guys: McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, Roslovic, and Draisaitl. Sixth leading scorer on the Oilers at even strength. So
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's very satisfying, and it's great to see a player work so hard and be rewarded for his hard work and work his way up the lineup.
Yeah.
And the Oilers need that to happen.
Yeah, and in a town like Edmonton, he's precisely the kind of player that fans in Edmonton are going to admire, right?
Yeah. And Bowman has taken some heat for some of his moves, like all GMs do, right? And it's going to happen, and we'll see how some of them turn out in the end. It's early days on most of his moves, but that trade and bringing in Emerson and that raft of players he brought in this summer who are doing so well in the AHL, Marjala, Szymanski, Hudson.
The
Traded
Condors
Mike
look
Miller.
like a completely different team. They really did a makeover.
Yeah, they've got some promising players. And, some of them in roles, like third line center for Szymanski eventually one day. So, Kurt, let's move on to the move that Bowman did make, this huge trade that fans didn't like. I did a poll who won the trade, and most of the people answering the poll would, of course, be my followers on X, and most of them are Oiler fans. And it was 40% said Edmonton won, and 60% said Pittsburgh won. And it's an interesting thing because Pittsburgh did very well out of that trade, unless you go with I think it's the old Sam Pollock rule. The team that gets the best player wins the trade. And we still don't know that Jarry will be the best player out of that trade, but there's a good chance. Like there's I'd say there I would say Pittsburgh won the trade, like just in terms of getting assets that you can use to build a winning team. But getting that one key player for the Oilers in that one key position puts them in a better position to win the Stanley Cup. I think that's the real questions. Like on Oilers Now, Bryn Griffiths was asking, are the Oilers a better team now than they were yesterday? And you could arguably say no. They lost Kulak, they lost a really good defenseman, they lost a decent goalie, and they brought in another goalie, maybe a sideways move. We still don't know. But are the Oilers in a better position to win the Stanley Cup this year because of it? And I would say, and this is partly based on recency bias of tonight's game, but I would say yes. The Jarry, he has like, I know there's all these different kinds of save percentage and goals saved above the expected on this, but his save percentage is 20 ticks higher than Skinner's. That's pretty significant this year, and he's healthy. He's playing well. Um, I think they got a really good player out of this. And the more I thought about the trade, like I was disappointed they did give up a lot. But the more I thought about the trade, the more I liked it. I just think the other key for me, and then I'll let you go talk as well, is they both are is Skinner UFA this summer actually. Kulak
Yes,
is Kulak's UFA and Skinner's
both
UFA.
UFAs.
So um, signing them was going to be and could be very expensive. Kulak, CC got 4 years at $4.5 million. I take Kulak every day of the week over Cody CC right now.
100%.
Especially heading into your 30s, where the defensemen who tend to last in their 30s are the good skating defensemen. So Kulak could easily get 4 years at 4.5. He could easily get 4 years at 5. Like there's lots of teams with lots of money right now. He could get a big contract, and so could Stu Skinner if he goes on to play with the Oilers. If he had done that with the Oilers, he would have got paid. If he does that now, he'll get paid. So the fact you're giving up two expiring contracts, a second round draft pick in 2029, and you're getting arguably the best player in the trade, I like you.
Well, first of all, I kind of laugh at the poll. It says, boy, there's no revisionists in this fan base at all, are there? I mean, there was practically a parade to get rid of Stuart Skinner, for God's sakes. Like,
True
come
that.
on,
True
guys.
that. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So I kind of shake my head at that. Look, I think the Oilers might have won this trade because, as you said, I do think that they got the best player in the trade. We won't know at least until June who won this trade, because the real question is, can Tristan Jarry help this team get over the top where Stuart Skinner couldn't quite? And to Stu's credit, he played some good hockey with this team. I don't think they win those Dallas series without him, right? And the revisionists like to gloss over that kind of stuff. But if Jarry's the guy who helps put this team over the top, there'll be no question that they won the trade. It's pretty difficult for Pittsburgh to win this trade if they miss the playoffs. Like, what good did it do to get who they got? I'm sorry to see Brett Kulak go, because Brett Kulak has been nothing but terrific in the playoffs ever since he got to Edmonton. But they needed to include him to make the money work. Otherwise, they couldn't fit Jarry's contract under the cap. That was a financial part of the transaction. As I understand it, the Oilers didn't want to trade Kulak, but it's the only way they could make the money work.
Yeah.
Finally, on Jarry, I know that the Oilers looked at a bunch of metrics that helped them decide that Jarry was the right guy for them. And one of them, and I don't have the exact number, that's a club number, is that he was among the best goaltenders in the league at save percentage against grade A chances,
Hmm.
which is something that I think we can agree is something that Stuart Skinner wasn't especially adept at. We often talked about how we needed Stu to save a puck or two that he shouldn't have saved. Um, and that is a part of Tristan Jarry's game. That's something that if you set last season, which was certainly an off year aside, is something that he's done over his career. He stops the odd puck that he really shouldn't. And maybe that Tavares breakaway tonight is an example of that. So at the end of the day, look, I salute Stan Bowman for making a deal. If you go all the way and lose again with the same goaltender, well, shame on the general manager, right? Like how could he not try that to make sure that he he paves this team's way to the Stanley Cup? If he doesn't, everybody's faulting the GM if he doesn't do it, right?
The way Skinner was playing and Pickard has played, they couldn't go into the playoffs. You are negligent, you are incompetent and negligent as a GM if you don't get the best goalie you can. So I don't think Stan Bowman's a dummy. I think he's at least an above average NHL GM, and he's made a lot of good moves, such as the Podkolzin trade, the Emberson trade, the Roslovic signing, bringing in all those talented players from Europe in the summer. I think that the Howard trade is looking pretty good.
Yep.
So he's not a dummy. So he's scanning the market. This is the best deal. This was the best goalie they could get. This was the deal, and I don't have any doubt about that. Like I don't like if he just sharpened his pencil harder and been a more aggressive negotiator and all this stuff. No. Like this was, and they had like some people don't real like they're criticizing the trade because they gave Kulak. When Pittsburgh said, you could try to get them to fold on eating money, but some owners just aren't going to eat any money that's not in their playbook to give up a couple million, like millions of dollars, $7 million over a few years. They don't want to eat that money. They're not going to do it. So that means Kulak's going. So one of the keys to this trade is how well this other guy they brought in, 25-year-old Spencer Stastny, who's known as a really good skater, plays. Now he might be the seventh defenseman.
I think that'll be the case because I think Wallman will end up back on the left side.
Yeah, so we don't know, but suddenly there's a lot of pressure on three youngish defensemen, Spencer Stastny, Alec Regula, and Ty Emberson. But they're all about 25. They're all at that age where defensemen often step up and start to play useful hockey, and they only have to play third pairing defense, most likely, to get by. Although, we don't know yet exactly what the configuration is going to be because, if you have Nurse, Ekholm, and Wallman all left shots on that's like three top four defensemen, and one of them would have to play the bottom pairing. But if the two bottom pairs play about the same amount of time, that's not such an issue, is it? So,
yeah, I agree. And you know what, Spencer Stastny tonight, that play in the third period when he had the puck in Toronto zone. Wow, he's at least as good of a skater as Brett Kulak is, and I think he's a better skater in limited space than Kulak. And in other words, I think he's more nimble. Kulak had just tremendous straight ahead speed and was really smooth. But I think Stastny is better on tight turns and in close quarters. And by the way, you mentioned Ty Emberson tonight. Check his line. 3 shots, 5 blocks, 3 hits, 17-12.
Yeah, he's been playing well.
He has. He's exceeded my expectations, I gotta say. At the start of the year, I wondered if he was going to cut it, but he has been pretty good, and I respect that.
And so much was made by some commentators about losing Kulak and about how he's a great playoff performer. I agree with that. For instance, Ryan Rishaug and Rob Brown were both making that point on the Got Your Back podcast. This is a fair comment. Here's the truth, though, Kurt. The Oilers aren't winning the cup if Darnell Nurse doesn't finally bring his A game in the playoffs. And the need for Kulak to play so well and to play so many minutes comes in large part because Nurse crapped the bed in the playoffs 4 years running. It can't happen again. And the Oilers don't win the cup again without Darnell Nurse bringing his A game, or at least his B game, instead of his D minus game, which is what he's done. This is the real fact of the Oilers' defense. If he's playing well, you're not going to miss Brett Kulak in the playoffs. I can assure you of that. If he's not playing well, even if Kulak's there, they weren't going to win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's important that the young guys play well, but it's really important that he steps up and becomes the player he can be in the playoffs. And I'm starting to get the confidence again based on he's been really playing well for the last month. So he's fully capable of doing it. He's just got to make the right decisions, get in the right headspace going into the playoffs, have the right kind of coaching. Stop trying to do too much. Buckle down, play a disciplined game, and help the Oilers win. So that's my
Well, he
comment.
graded out an 8 tonight. I thought he was the Oilers' best defenseman.
He was good. Finally on Skinner, like I do wish him well.
Me too.
And there is some revisionism, I guess, because it was a fairly pretty penny that they paid to bring in Tristan Jarry, but we started to see the same kinds of goals, and it started last year with the cross seam passes and people making fun of him falling on his face on the cross seam passes. Jamie McLennan made a withering comment about the trade. He said, at least Jarry can go side to side without falling on his face. Wow. And the truth hurts. That's the truth. And Skinner was also having trouble down low block, cutting out passes and making poke check plays down low. And he was also having trouble on power plays with screens, looking on the wrong side and being agile enough to get then back to the other side. There were some holes in his game that had developed in Edmonton, which were obvious to even people like lay people like me and every other, like fans were expecting these situations. We couldn't take any more goals like this that other goalies would stop. So he needs to go somewhere else and work with another goalie coach and work on those plays and not have this kind of judgment overhang him every time he makes a mistake. Start over again. It's the best thing for Stu Skinner.
Stan Bowman in his comments post-trade, his comment was, and I'm paraphrasing here, was it was time for a change. And let me say this. After several years of your teammates sticking up for you in post-game interviews, that starts to wear on your teammates. And while I don't think that was anywhere close to the number one factor in Stan Bowman's decision-making, don't discount that it was part of it. Don't discount that it was part of it.
I think it's wearing on it. Everyone sees what we see, Kurt. The things I just said.
The players know before everybody else, David, right? The players always know first.
That's right. They know.
Yeah.
They can assess a goal and would most of the other goalies in the NHL have that particular play? And there are things that Stu Skinner was really good at, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like that other goalies wouldn't make the save, but in those situations, like they were being exploited too often. So, I like the trade, and we won't. Of course, we don't know. No one knows who wins a trade till you look down the road. Like, look at the Adam Larson Taylor Hall trade. That everyone thought was a terrible joke, and many people still hold out it was a terrible play for the Oilers. I don't. I think it was kind of a saw-off. Adam Larson was a really good player for the Oilers, and
really good. Yeah.
And if he had signed here, his next contract, I think you could say, well, that was a flat-out win for the Oilers. They would have had like 10 years out of a solid right shot defenseman.
Yeah.
As it was kind of he was damn good. Now, and Taylor Hall was damn good in New Jersey for a short time.
Then he got hurt.
And he got hurt, and he was always getting hurt, right?
Yep.
So anyway, so my point in that mini rant aside was that it's hard to know till you look way down the road who really wins a trade. But if the Oilers do well in the playoffs, if they get to where they need to go, which is a Stanley Cup win in the next, let's say 3 years he's got 3 years on his contract, Tristan Jarry.
Including this one,
3 years left, including this one. If they win a contract in one of those 3 years, the Oilers win this deal.
No question.
Because that's the goal, win a Stanley Cup.
They win it going away if they win a cup. No question about it.
Kurt, final thoughts? Anything you'd like to add?
No, you know what? It's the Oilers have found their offensive mojo. They've remembered how to score goals again. And if Tristan Jarry and their improved defensive play continues, these guys are going to be a force. Um, but there's been enough unevenness in their season to date. I think I forgive anybody who wants to, withhold their clear-throated endorsement for the time being.
Who knows what tomorrow night will bring? Like, honestly. So we'll see. It's Montreal tomorrow night. Kurt, thanks for talking tonight.
Always a pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the wisest, sharpest, sanest audience, the Cult of Hockey audience. Thanks again for tuning in tonight. And in the meantime, and in between time, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.